Here we are on Press Row Live, still recovering from a wild Saturday night of college football, and the first night for the Thunder officially inside the Ford Center. Where do we go from here? We'll find out today live on the Press Row. Hi from the Dodge Sports Desk, I'm Mike Kaler. Joining me today are columnist John Rohde, who will size up the Thunder after their first games on Oklahoma soil, Barry Jamel, who will look at what's next for OU after the Texas loss, and columnist Jenny Carlson, who will talk about what went right for Oklahoma State in Columbia, Missouri. Jenny, let's start with you. You took the trip to Columbia to see the OSU game. Was there a moment during that thing where you realized, hey, they could actually win this thing?
I think there were several moments in there. They were followed on a pretty regular basis by, okay, is this where they turn the tide and maybe screw this one up? We've seen OSU do that from time to time. They had a game last year against Texas in Stillwater that they basically snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. So there were chances for OSU to do that again on Saturday in Stillwater. The big thing for them this time around, they didn't. They won this game. There were so many chances for them to lose, but to win this game against a really good team, this is a huge win for these guys. And I think by halftime, everyone in the stadium realized OSU is every bit the team that Missouri was showing themselves to be. I think at that point, the momentum was clearly with OSU, and they kept it going. That touchdown by Kendall Hunter early in the second half was huge. So, yeah, there were definitely you knew OSU was in this, I think, almost from the beginning.
I thought one of the keys, J.G. Whitfield's right, there's a bunch of key points in that game, but early I thought Gary Pinkel really gave OSU an opportunity. He had 3rd and goal from the 1, ran it, didn't make it, 4th and literally inches, they kick a field goal. Yeah. To me, that set the tone that, hey, Missouri's not going to be able to go push OSU around, and from that point on, I thought OSU had a fighting chance.
Does this kind of get rid of some of these questions that are always around about them, especially the whole they'll be good if the defense is good kind of question? Does that go away now?
I just can't believe that OSU isn't a little bit surprised on how well they did. They had to be. I mean, that was a terrific team they beat. And Barry and I were in a restaurant in north of Dallas watching it, and Barry stuck around till the end, and Halsey and I drove north, and we were listening to Dave Hunziker. I hope the man's okay. During
Vienna.
I think one Davis reception he lost puberty, and then the next one he had a heart attack, and I kidded him about that. He goes, you know what? My wife said the exact same thing. It was fun. I mean, this is, when we leave the Cotton Bowl, Barry, we're thinking, wow, Texas and Missouri, what a game. The week after that, yeah, exactly. Texas, Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit, if we could go on to you, Barry, talk a little bit about the OU-Texas game. You're in Dallas, we're down there. Everybody's kind of trying to figure out exactly what went wrong in this. Was the Ryan Reynolds injury, was that the tipping point, which what decided the whole game, or what moment kind of stands out for you?
Well, it didn't. Losing Reynolds certainly didn't help. Texas had 20 points at that point, but only 13 from the offense. After that, the Longhorns really got on a roll. But Texas was moving the ball pretty good in the first half, too. Settled for field goals twice. I thought the key play in the game remains the kickoff return. OU outscored Texas 5-4 in offensive touchdowns. But that kickoff return for a touchdown really gave Texas it gave them a free touchdown, and it squelched momentum. OU was up 14-3 and was really sort of had its foot on the Longhorns, and that kickoff return to me changed the game. Losing Reynolds did create a hole in the Oklahoma defense, and the problem I see is it really magnifies OU's lack of depth at that position. People keep saying, well, they should have done this. They should have moved in Austin Bucks. They should have moved somebody. The truth of the matter is, I think, is they've got 3 linebackers, and if one of them goes down, that doesn't mean they got another one. They mean they've got 3. So they didn't have any great options. So losing Ryan Reynolds definitely hurt.
What do you think, John? You were down there. Was there a moment where you think that made the difference? Was it the kickoff?
Well, I think, what I don't think it was the fake punt. Everybody's pointing at that. And it wasn't the interception. That wasn't even an interception. That was just an ebb and flow game. And in the end, OU looked spent. Their fans looked spent. The team looked spent. I definitely think Ryan Reynolds not only on the field, but in maybe some of their heads, too. Mm-hmm. I think he was a huge loss.
It seemed like a couple of these things, the running game and this whole kick coverage thing, have been ticking, a little bit of ticking time bombs all year long, and everybody's like, oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And then both those things seem to fail on them.
Yeah. You know where your Jayhawks rank in kickoff returns?
My Jayhawks.
119th. That's dead last. So OU gets a break this week. They average 12 yards a kickoff return.
How about that?
Horrible.
Well, and you're right, Mike. The fact is that I think everybody was looking, especially at that kickoff return team, and thinking, okay, when's it really going to bite them? Because they'd had some kickoffs go for touchdowns, but, in blowout games, you look at it and say, all right, well, that doesn't hurt you. It was just a matter of time, it felt like, before that was the difference. And I really did feel like that was a huge momentum shift. I wasn't there, but watching it, just almost, he wasn't untouched, but he was, pretty untackleable, it seemed like, with that whole return. And yeah, the emotion of the game, I really felt like Ryan Reynolds, I think it was as much mental as physical. You lose a physical presence, but to lose a leader like that, a guy that had seemingly anchoring that defense, that was huge mentally.
You talk about that kickoff return. You were right. It wasn't. He was a little bit touched, but he was running right at us. He ran at an angle. Jordan Shipley did, and you could see it was wide open. For crying out loud, you could see right away. You didn't know if he'd score, but you knew he was going to make a ton. There's a major hole in that OU kickoff coverage. I don't claim to be an expert on kickoff coverage, but something's wrong with the OU operation on special teams.
Well, they're switching they have 4 new guys on special teams. That's 1/3 their lineup. That's a huge adjustment in 1 week.
And it seemed like they had good guys out there. It seemed like they had their tacklers out there, and for whatever reason...
Yeah, get fast guys who can tackle. How about that?
They seem to have that. I don't know what the answer is, but it wasn't that conglomeration they had out there before.
All right, this should get people fired up. Barry, you're fixing to do a video on this today.
You fixing?
Fixing to. I even wrote it on the teleprompter.
Good old Oklahoma word.
But should OSU realistically be ranked ahead of OU? Give us a little.
Realistically, figuratively, in every way you can. By what justification would you rank OU ahead of OSU? Before Saturday, OU had played a little better schedule, not significantly better, but pretty good schedule. OSU so-so. And then on Saturday, one team plays a really good team on a neutral field and loses. The other team plays a really good team away and wins. Oklahoma State should definitely be ranked ahead of OU.
Let's put it this way.
This is your official weekly chance to disagree with Barry.
No. Here's the sad part. I'm not going to. What if, let's say Saturday's game is now Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. This Saturday. Who you got? I got Oklahoma State.
At home? Yeah.
Well, yeah. They are going to play at home. Another reason to vote them ahead. it doesn't work that way because of preseason polls and reputation and tradition, and we can go on for an hour and a half about that. But, I'm on that bandwagon up there in Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I'd like to see, and this is, the middle of this argument is when should we start ranking teams? When should humans get into the business of starting to rank teams? And I don't think there's any doubt that if you're gonna rank teams, you have to be willing to blow it up. And people aren't willing to do that after a couple weeks. I think pollsters generally will do a preseason ranking, and I don't know about you, John, you've done this too, but those first couple weeks of the season, you're pretty willing to shift teams and ebb and flow. But then once you get into the season, it's a little bit harder to do those seismic jumps one way or another, and it's just kind of human nature. And so if you aren't willing to do that on a weekly basis throughout the season, I think it goes back to stop and let's not have those first rankings come out until middle of October.
Wouldn't help.
It
wouldn't help.
Yeah,
Voters are lemmings.
Yeah.
Voters are lemmings. They don't know. People vote, and the writers are better than the coaches because the coaches are complete idiots. But people vote not on what teams have done. They vote on what they think teams should do. That's what they do. So, Alabama beats Clemson to start the year, and LSU beats Louisiana Teachers College, and they keep LSU ahead of Alabama. Alabama has clearly shown that it's capable of doing something. LSU hadn't shown squat, but we'll put LSU ahead of Alabama.
All right. Well, give us something to talk about come Bedlam week, for goodness sakes. So let's go on to the NBA team in all this talk, John. The Thunder have played in Tulsa for some reason. They played in Oklahoma City, now in exhibition games. The one thing that I keep hearing from people is these guys are going to be brutal.
Well,
your thoughts?
They got to figure out where the basket is. But here's the deal, and PJ talked about this. They've been working so much on defense, they haven't really taken a look at the offense in their practice today. is going to start doing that. Here's what and it's what we've been saying all along. These guys try hard, man. I mean, it's not lack of effort, so we can't get on them there. It's just lacking knowing where the basket is offensively. And you know, it was really weird because Desmond Mason is a defensive aficionado, and Damian Wilkins is giving him suggestions during timeouts on how PJ likes things done. They're helping each other out as much as they can. It's a pretty tight group from what I've seen in just the 2 games I've seen.
It seems like everybody keeps talking about center, but it seems to me that they don't really have a shooter, though, either. I mean, they've got, I mean, Durant for all he does, but they don't, as ridiculous as it sounds, they don't have a guy like J.R. Smith with the Hornets.
Do you want to talk about the Westbrook thing again? Well, you want to talk about the Westbrook argument with
Does Westbrook
Watson?
need to be a 2? Or what do you think, Barry?
I wouldn't put Westbrook at 2. I don't think he's an
Would you start him at
shooter.
point guard like you did a week ago?
I would still. I'd start Westbrook at point guard because that's what he's going to have to play for your franchise to be good. Now, Earl Watson will win you more games, which means you'll get up to 30 instead of 26.
Well, then why on earth would he start the other guy if the other guy's going to win you more games?
Because this season is not about winning 30 instead of 26. This season is about building for the future. And Westbrook, you know, he's not a Chris Paul. He's not going to come in and take the league by storm. He's going to have to grow into the position. No better time than now to start grooming him. But this season is not about getting to 34 wins, you know, and getting everybody fired up. This team has a chance to be good in 2 years, but it doesn't have a chance to be good this year. No reason to play for immediate gratification.
It just seems like there's a lot more holes to fill than, I mean, we were all talking about the big man in the middle, which is so far Johan Petro to the rescue for that, but it seems like, you know, they've got to score some points. They've got like a half a dozen 3-pointers.
You know what? I was really surprised how absent, I really can't come up with a better word, Kevin Durant was in the first half in the exhibition game here. He was kind of that way in Tulsa a little bit too. Had 20 of his 26 in the fourth quarter then. And on Tuesday night, the same sort of thing happened with him late. It was like he flipped a switch. It was like he'd been hot all night, and yet in the first half he was as cold as could be, not taking many shots. They're going to need him to be more consistent. Granted, we all know the fourth quarter is the money quarter in the NBA, but still, you can't go out spotting teams huge leads and have your star scoreless at the end of the first quarter. He's got to come to play faster as an offensive threat, and I'm not saying it's all on him by any stretch, but you can't have him disappear. And he did that a little bit at Texas, too. There were times he'd go great guns and then kind of, where's Kevin Durant? You know he's out there, but he's not doing anything. He has to be more consistent offensively, I think, throughout games for them to have a chance at 26, 30, or anything this year.
We're getting back to what Barry was saying. I'm not disagreeing, but you're asking the fans to do an awful lot. You're asking them to ignore the scoreboard, ignore the win column, and it just doesn't work that way. I agree with you about building.
It depends how long the honeymoon is.
Here's the problem. The problem is a 20-win team has just come to town. 3 years ago, an 18-win team came to town. And that team turned out could play. That team was pretty good. And we think, well, the jump from awful, the jump from stink to acceptable, something you can stand to live with, is not that big a jump. But the truth of the matter is it's a huge jump. And they made that jump because Chris Paul is so special. And because the guy who has the ball in his hands 70% of the time was an immediate star. This team is not going to be capable of making that jump, and we should get it out of our heads that they're going to be competitive. You know, my good friend Darnell Mayberry has predicted 37 wins for this team. I guess he thinks LeBron James is going to get traded to Oklahoma City in January. They got no chance at being competitive. They're going to be awful. And the quicker we learn to accept that and learn to go out and enjoy the dancing girls and everything else they're going to throw out, the better off we're going to be this first year.
All right, thank you for the segue. Barry, with the segue. All right, we'll wrap it up with one final question around the horn. It seemed like the first exhibition game that was the other night at the Ford Center seemed like they held a bunch of stuff back, presentation-wise. No AC/DC, for one thing. What do you think the biggest difference will be between the other night and opening night on the 29th?
I hope a big difference. You know, here's the deal. When they first opened this up I'm all about being, you know, the in-state team and opening it up for the public. Well, that doesn't come to game presentation. And I'll tell you, when I was in Tulsa, Houston was a home team, and they had the Houston mascot on the scoreboard, and people were loving it. and they had the Houston mascot on the floor, and people were loving it. We may not have a mascot this year, and there's nothing to embrace. So I don't know. Just think, just think a little more professionally. I think with the presentation.
Steal from the Hornets. Just steal their stuff. I mean, forget any sort of.
They did it a little bit.
Do it all the way. Do everything that, all the cheesy stuff, all the fun stuff, all the fan stuff, the dance cam, the kiss cam. Do it all. Just do it and don't apologize about it. It was great when they were here, and I have a feeling, I haven't been to a lot of other NBA arenas.
No, that's what I was just going to say. That's in a lot of arenas,
but
all
yeah,
that stuff.
You're basically taking just what everybody else in the NBA does and just adopt it. Just do it because it's fun and it works.
There's reason for optimism on this front. They have hired, I forgot the title, but director of game presentation or something, Quintero. Is it Josh Quintero, I think? The same guy that did it for the Hornets is doing it now for the Thunder. I assume that he's got all that in his memory bank and it'll come out. And I think they said we're holding stuff back. We don't want to spend it all on opening night or on exhibition game. We want to save it for opening night. I tend to think that's probably right. But because this team is going to stink, they're going to have to go. They're going to have to entertain the fans, and I think they will. I think they will. They got, they don't like to. The Thunder does not want to be compared to the Hornets. Now they don't want to do that. They don't want any part of that. But the truth of the matter is, the Hornets gave them a great blueprint.
They've ignored it totally so far.
Well, but maybe by design. But just follow that blueprint, and the fans will come aboard.
Yeah, when they said whose ball is it, Thunderball, the other day, I was like, hey, I think I've heard that before.
I don't think they said Thunderball
I heard a lot of Hornets
either.
Alrighty, thanks guys. Be sure to follow all of our stories and opinions about all of these topics and so much more every day on newsok.com, newsok.tv, and every day in your life. Thanks.